We're in a rather bizarre situation where these Eurosceptic Tories, the ERG group, the European Research Group, led by Jacob Rees-Mogg, so much in the news today, are pledging now to back the Prime Minister, but they are demanding she drops Chequers. But is it possible for the Prime Minister to do that? Well, let's talk to our guest, Conservative MP for Shrewsbury and Atcham, Daniel Kawczynski, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Daniel.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, it's a little bit disingenuous for Eurosceptic Tories MPs to say we're not trying to get rid of change the Prime Minister. We're trying to change the policy when you know perfectly well the Prime Minister isn't going to drop Chequers. That all of her, I mean, what little authority she's got left would be gone if she did that. In which case, changing the policy would mean a change in the Prime Minister. Shouldn't you all be honest about it?
Well, I think that this is the single most important decision that we are going to take, certainly in my political lifetime. The future nature of our relationship with the European Union. Many of us are in discussions with our associations, with our party members and with our constituents. We're taking soundings as to how they feel about what should be done and how Parliament should act in this regard. So, no, I would push back on that. I think it's absolutely the role and responsibility of Parliament to hold the Prime Minister to account and to highlight areas of concern where we see that and to challenge her.
I mean, the reality is that it's the Prime Minister who is rebelling against her own manifesto and her own speeches that she's made in the past about delivering Brexit, rather than your group, bizarrely, rebelling. You're actually in line with what I think many Tory voters in June 2017 expected, and indeed what Tory MPs were told when Theresa May made a bid for the leadership of the party just after the referendum and David Cameron's resignation. How do you think this is going to end? There's lots of talk that there'll be, I mean, one of the papers today, The Eye, is reporting there's going to be a bid to oust Theresa May in April. I think everyone's been talking about that for a year and a half. I don't think anyone doubts that. But how could you possibly ensure that you get the Brexit that you want and many leavers want unless you get rid of the Prime Minister?
Well, you're absolutely right. We are loyal, and we are loyal to the Prime Minister in what she said. She outlined very clearly when she stood to be leader of our party, and in her Lancaster House speech, and in all the subsequent speeches, that she would respect the wishes of the British people. I am currently writing a paper for my local association, outlining the differences between the Canada Plus model, which is the version that we prefer for the United Kingdom, rather than Chequers. And I'm going to try to explain to my party members exactly what the differences are. I think it's very, very important that everybody knows the differences in the approach of the role that the European Court of Justice will have under the Canada Plus model versus the Chequers model. But look, to answer your question specifically, the Prime Minister is a servant of the country, and she, like the rest of us are, and she has to acquiesce to what the British people want. One of the reasons the previous Prime Minister had to leave is because he got the mood of the country wrong, and he campaigned for Remain, and that's why he left. You have to be in tune with the British people. If Mrs May can sell Chequers to the British people, she will continue to be Prime Minister. If she can't, then somebody else will have to take over.
And what do you make of all these reports about, well, we will face roaming costs on our mobile phones again, although that's already, I think, being poo-pooed by the government. They're doing deals with Vodafone and the like. Planes being grounded. We've had Ryanair's boss, Michael O'Leary, warning about failure to have a deal. We've seen Chris Grayling, the Transport Secretary, writing to the EU27 leaders or governments to say, look, can we do a deal, please, in terms of air traffic and road transport as well, although he's got a bit of a slap on the hand from Barnier for that, because he's not supposed to be dealing directly with them. There are lots of fears that people have that if we don't have a deal, these are going to be genuine problems, real problems for real British people when they're travelling and when they're trying to go abroad.
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned Mr. O'Leary. I was reading about him yesterday. He is the personification of the degradation of Brexit and the will of the British people. I myself now refuse to fly Ryanair because of poor service from Ryanair, but also the attitude of Mr. O'Leary, quite frankly. But look, these are all Operation Fair Mark II. designed to frighten the British people that somehow April the 1st of next year, immediately after Brexit, there will be Armageddon. The economy is going to collapse. We're not going to have appropriate amount of medicines in our hospitals. We're going to have huge car parking problems, lorry delays at Dover, etc., etc. This is Operation Fear exacerbated. We had that before, and the British people, in their wisdom and in their courage and their determination, chose to ignore this motive designed to frighten them, and they chose for Brexit. And I think, quite frankly, that they have the same attitude today as they did in the referendum 2 years ago. They're determined that their decision is respected. They have every confidence in our country's ability and in our company's ability to change and adapt to new circumstances. And they feel that the United Kingdom has a great future ahead of her. Our best days are ahead of us as a country. So they will not be cowed by these scare tactics.
We should talk about some of the meat and potatoes of the Brexit debate at some point, because so much of it seems to be about personalities and about leadership. Who's going to do a Chequers deal? Who's failing? Who's not delivering on Brexit? But one of the big issues on Brexit, we've been told ever since word go, has been the Northern Irish border. And yesterday we have seen a new plan to tackle the issue of the Northern Irish border, to stop the United Kingdom effectively being torn apart by having effectively a customs border in the Irish Sea. Well, let's talk about this with Owen Paterson. He's Tory MP for North Shropshire. He's a Eurosceptic. He's also a former Secretary of State for Northern Ireland and joins us now. Good morning to you, Owen.
Hello, good morning.
In all the reports on these topics, and whether it's about, I don't know, planes being grounded or us all being charged £5,000 to make a phone call if we're on holiday in Spain, we often forget some of the nitty-gritty stuff. But actually, the reality is an awful lot of what's going on in the Brexit negotiations and the Brexit planning is quite dull, nitty-gritty stuff, none least than the Northern Irish border plan. And there have been a lot of criticisms of the Eurosceptics for basically not providing a solution to the issue of whether you have a hard border or not between the Republic of Ireland and the Northern Ireland counties. But new research, a new plan released by the European Research Group, of which you're a member, Brexiteer Tories, suggests that you can actually solve this problem without a hard border. In a nutshell, what are you proposing?
Well, yes, you're absolutely spot on. The talk seems to have got completely stuck because the European Union, in its determination to protect the integrity of its single market and customs union, which we completely respect, has said that the only solution on the Northern Irish Republic of Ireland border is to, quote, have a hard border. That means having infrastructure of some sort, which is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Why? We keep hearing this. These statements are made. It's completely unacceptable. Why is it unacceptable? We haven't got a border there for a number of different reasons. But if we are in a completely different, we're outside of the EU, and they are different countries, as much as people might not like to say, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland have different laws, different tax regimes. They are different countries. What's wrong with having some hard border infrastructure?
Well, it simply won't work on a border like that.
Why?
I spent a lot of time there. Lots of little roads. It's completely impractical. We tried to do it during the awful period of the Troubles. We had 27,000 armed troops and police and security people. We couldn't keep it tight then. Even today, there is significant smuggling both in the south and in the northern part of Ireland, Northern Ireland and the Republic. And nobody suggests that putting barriers up on the borders is the solution. The solution is to use modern techniques. The Republic of Ireland at the moment only inspects about 1% of the shipments coming in, and yet they've had successful stops on illegal goods. So 8 million cigarettes were stopped in Belfast by intelligence. So what we have done, we're generally trying to be helpful to the Commission and to the UK government, because the talk seems to have got completely stuck on this issue. The vast majority of trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic is repetitious. It's the same goods. I mean, I always quote the most obvious one, which has to be regulated quite tightly, is milk production. So it's the same cows, well-regulated herds in the north, on the same trucks, on the same road, to the same dairy, pretty well at the same time of day. And that is absolutely ideally suited to the idea of trusted traders. So these are trucking companies who are given a speedy path through all procedures, because they are trusted. So we have the idea of an authorised economic operator. We've only got about, I think, 608 the last time I saw it. Germany's got over 6,000. That's an absolutely ideal trade, which can be handled by that existing technology and administrative means. And that's why I called it boring yesterday, delivery, because if we'd put in the paper exciting new techniques, and funny enough, I did a telly interview down the line, so I couldn't see the person at the other end, said, oh, this is all mad, this has never been tried out, this is all crazy, we're months away. Everything in this paper works in other countries now, works in this country now, works within current EU law, works within current UK law. And that's why I deliberately said it is boring. But just because it's boring and exists doesn't mean to say the Commission and the UK government should go back to it.
Okay, so
it looks like Chequers is dead on its feet. It looks like the Europeans don't like it. Large numbers of MPs don't like it. I personally don't like it because it means we're not leaving. We'll be taking laws which we can't influence when they're being made, and we certainly can't influence once they've been put through.
But yet the issue of the Northern Irish border has been constantly raised. I mean, again, I don't remember people being particularly concerned about this issue. I mean, Remainers have certainly made the point ahead of the 2016 referendum, but they sort of moved on from, as each point gets destroyed that they've argued against why Brexit will work, they focus on another. But the issue of Northern Irish border doesn't seem to have been, sorted out, certainly in the minds of many. But you just said there, the Chequers deal is dead. Now, is it dead because you know that the Eurosceptics, the ERG, you've got enough numbers to defeat that in the House of Commons, and you have pledged behind closed doors and in public that you will defeat that? Or is it dead because Michel Barnier is not going to accept it? He's already poo-pooed a lot of it. Or that actually, even if it could get support, the European Union won't be able to resist trying to make even more demands because, hey, Theresa May's giving in on everything else already.
Well, I think you're right. It's a combination of all those. But I mean, the thing that most struck me at our press conference yesterday, we had a guy called Hans Maassen, who's had 35 years in working in customs industry in Holland, and he had been talking to British officials, and he was absolutely astonished that the VAT element in Chequers had not been sorted out. So, I mean, I think Chequers is a non-starter politically. Both from the European point of view and from the UK point of view. But I think it's just not practical, and it's not necessary, because that's the purpose of our paper yesterday, to show there's a perfectly simple method of having an ordered, regulated border between the Republic of Ireland, staying a member of the European Union, and Northern Ireland, an absolutely integral part of the United Kingdom. And that can be done. The border is, everyone thinks about a border. They have sort of images of the stagecoach coming down the road and stopping at a big painted stripy barrier, and a man in a tricorn hat and breeches coming out and stopping him, sticking a ladle in the barrel of treacle and paying duty on the border. I mean, that just does not happen. There is a border now. There is a VAT border, there's a tax border, there's a currency border, there's very much an excise duty border, very important, there's a security border. And that is all sorted with existing technologies and existing administrative systems, all of which can just be ramped up a little bit further using existing technology, existing legislation to handle the differences between a UK, which either one would very much hope, and of course we very much hope it would be in a free trade area, so you wouldn't have the tariff issue, but if we ended up on world trade terms, could also handle those terms as well, because this would be compatible with World Trade Organization rules. But we've got to unbreak the logjam. We can't just go on saying we're stuck on the Irish border issue. We can't have infrastructure and a hard border for all the reasons we understand, but everything else is unacceptable. And people have got to look at this. And I said deliberately, I'll repeat myself, I said it was boring because there is absolutely nothing new or revolutionary here. It just works.
Let's talk about something that's definitely not boring, and that's the £39 billion Brexit divorce bill. Just finally, very briefly, if you would, Owen Paterson, you're a Eurosceptic. Dominic Raab, Eurosceptic, now Brexit Secretary. He's signed up to the Chequers deal, but he has said, and it's front page of some of the papers today, that if we don't get a deal, I don't know what depends which deal it is, that the £39 billion would not be paid. I mean, certainly some of it would need to be paid. There are some other commitments we do have to make, but they wouldn't certainly be getting that sort of full sum. Do you think that is going to happen, that we won't actually end up paying that money?
Well, I'm delighted. What I've read in Dominic's brief article in The Telegraph, we know that from the beginning, money was really important to the European Union. We've been coughing up 10 billion net So we've been paying for nice roads and public services and teacher training colleges all around Eastern Europe and everywhere as they come back from the wreckage of communism. And they really, really need that money. So we've got a bargaining chip, and they raised that at the beginning. I think we probably were unwise to even hint that we're going to give anything. The House of Lords Committee has said quite clearly on legal terms, we owe nothing. And don't forget, net, we have put hundreds of millions in over the last few decades. So I think holding out the money is absolutely right. I mean, Canada did a free trade deal with the European Union and does not spend a single cent. It's completely bizarre that we have to pay to trade with people who have an enormous surplus with us.
No one else in the world does it. Owen Paterson, thank you for joining us, former Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Thank you, talking about the boring Northern Ireland border plan. We're constantly told it's boring. Well, you know what? A lot of solutions to real problems are.